Okay. This is a sad case. We hate this. I mean, everybody's obsessed with it, but it is the Idaho 4, Bryan Kohberger. Another Bryan. We had two very bad Bryans immediately this winter. We have a Bryan with a Y, which is this Bryan, and then the other Bryan was with an I. Don't marry a guy named Bryan, it seems like. Sorry to all the Bryans out there. All right. Again, we are halfway through the bottle. Patty's getting a little sloppy. But we have to keep going on. We've got lots of cases. There is too much crime and not enough time. Don't forget to give me a like if you can. And would you please subscribe? It's free. It would be great if I could get more subscribers. I mean, if you want to. You don't have to. I'll still be here telling you what's what anyways. All right. So, what's going on with the Idaho case? So, we had a bunch of legal filings. So, as you know or may not know, 4 Idaho students were murdered in their off-campus housing, and it was insane for a very long time. And what's really weird is their college is the Vandals, which, if you know, is a name that kind of brings about the idea of like crime, but obviously it has nothing to do with it. It's just weird. And it's Moscow, rhymes with Idaho, not like Moscow, which I think I said. Moscow. Yes. A grad student in the town just right over the border in Washington, but like a sister city really close by, has been charged. There's a lot of evidence that seems to point to him being around the house, in the house, at least there was something with his DNA, even though it was just a little bit, in the house, on the knife sheath. Seems pretty convincing, right? Anyway, so what's happening? And there's a big gag order on this case because it's a death penalty case, which comes up in this update. And so if you've been watching the Lori Vallow trial and Chad Daybell, you know that when it's death penalty, they give all kinds of, they're very careful about how the legal process goes because they want it to stick. And they know there's going to be an appeal anyways, so they want everything done to the book. So, number one, so the gag order. At first there was a gag order against, like what is in the Trezell and Jacqueline West case. Basically, like the attorneys can't talk and, nobody in the court can talk. Well, this extended to the language of the attorneys for the families as well. And she wrote, the magistrate wrote, including but not limited to. Very bad legal language. Okay, but the gag order went all the way, the media, like 30 media sources, appealed it to the Idaho Supreme Court. And so here's what the Idaho Supreme Court said. And I think the ruling was like 30 or 31 pages, or maybe 13. I could be transposing those numbers. But anyways, the long and short of it is, basically, we're not dealing with this because it has to stand. You didn't ask in the right order. So it's kind of like Mother May I. You have to do things in just the right way or you've got to go back. So they did not appeal first to the person who made the decision, which you're like, well, that's kind of dumb because they made the decision. Why would I appeal to them? They're just going to go, yeah, I was right. Again, if you've been watching the Vallow case with Judge Boyce, you know there's been some appeals to him first because that's what they do. You first appeal in the court you're in, then you go up to the next district court of the state, and then you can go to the state Supreme Court. I believe that's the levels. And then if it's like death penalty, you can go to like the Supreme Court district, and then the federally district, and then to the Supreme Court. With this, and those might only be civil cases. With this, they just basically, they didn't say go back and ask again nicely to the district court, and then once she says no, we'll hear it again. But that's kind of what they mean. So, and to the prosecution, they included a discussion about like, yeah, basically we're still keeping this, but we do see that the language is a bit overbroad, meaning don't put in shit like and this and everything else too. I mean, when they say these people are limited, These people are part of the gag order, but not limited to these people. Well, not limited to just them means and everybody else too, and you can't gag the whole world. So, the magistrate judge then got a little clue there that maybe she should tighten up her language in the gag order. So we will see, I think Monday we would probably see that happening because the magistrate is a lawyer. She will get her language tighter. And I think first, if it hasn't already happened, that the media will make their appeal to her first and get ready then to go back up. So that was one thing. The second thing, the prosecution team filed for help from the Idaho Attorney State General's office. So what does that mean? Everybody's like, ooh. And immediately the Attorney State General's office said, yeah, you can have 2 assistant Attorney State Generals. Yes, these lawyers for the state, they can go help you because prosecution is part of the state system. So it also allows the resources of that office to go down and help this prosecutor in Moscow. Do you remember the prosecutor in Moscow? He looked like Santa Claus. And it was kind of clear at first, both he and the coroner were kind of saying crazy stuff. Not crazy stuff, but you can tell like they were not used to the national spotlight. They were just talking like normal people, not like people in the national spotlight that know to shut up and don't say anything because it's going to end up in court. And you're going to look biased. And, you know what I mean? You just can't be a normal person saying your normal thoughts if you're a prosecutor or a coroner, like any public office. You have to sort of like, which is why I will never be in public office, because I would say my feelings. And you can only do that if you're funded by the Koch brothers or somebody similarly. Ergo, one of the last people we had in power who could say crazy stuff. But really, in normal situations, people who are in the public eye have to be careful about what they say. And in small towns, people just talk to one another like they're people. And at the beginning of the Idaho 4 case, it sort of put the prosecutor and the coroner in hot water. They were saying too much. They were enjoying the spotlight a little bit, as one does, like YouTubers going, just asking for it. So, yes, that was problematic. So people are like, what does it mean? What does it mean? It probably means that guy needs some help. He needs some expertise. This is a huge case. There's 4 murders, maybe by somebody who either is a serial killer, could be a serial killer. He's definitely a mass murderer, allegedly, if he did it. He's presumed innocent at this point. But I mean, this is a very serious case, a very serious crime, and they need all the help and expertise that they can get. And it's not just a small town, college town prosecutor's gig. So, yeah, they're getting the help. They're getting the resources, which they probably need. Because as all the lawyers have pointed out, the Lori Vallow trial, now they have like 2 county prosecutors. They got a special prosecutor, Rachel Smith, who's used to doing these type of cases, like bigger cases, and they still had problems. And people are like, they should have had a discovery. Discovery screwed up the Vallow case a little bit. And it also screwed up the Morphew case, if you remember the Suzanne Morphew murder, because it was a no-body crime. And they charged him way fast, which was nice. I mean, it was within a year of the crime, but without a body. And then they made all these mistakes. It was the same thing. It was a small jurisdiction with a small, not hugely experienced DA who made all kinds of like errors, which when he could afford to hire the very best lawyers, mattered. So, and Bryan Kohberger has good lawyers because he's got state-appointed lawyers, but again, it's death penalty. They made sure he has very good lawyers. So everybody's just getting their ducks in a row and making sure that this case is good and fair on both sides. I don't think it means that they think there's something wrong with the case, or that they're scared. People are like, what does it mean? Are they scared? They need more help? No, they probably need more resources because they want to do it right. They probably want a discovery clerk to make sure the discovery works so they don't get dinged for not sharing discovery, because there's going to be a lot of it with 4 murders, right? So, that and the third thing that happened was, and I'm not going to use the real names of the witnesses because, you know, witness protection, you don't want them intimidated, and the survivors already have PTSD, survivor's guilt, from what is on the interwebs going around. So I don't want to be part of that. And as you can see here are all five, the 4 roommates and, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5 roommates and the boyfriend. So 4 were unalived, and then the people's faces who blurred out are the ones. One was upstairs who saw somebody leave the residence with bushy eyebrows, and the other girl was downstairs that we have not heard from, and it was assumed it wasn't in the, what is it called? You know, the first law talking thing. The arrest warrant, the probable cause warrant, she was not mentioned. So we didn't know what that meant, but now the defense wanted to subpoena her to show up at the June 26th preliminary. They wanted to put her on the stand and question her. We don't know why. There is scuttlebutt on the internet, and this is why they want a gag order. A PI hired by the defense has been running his mouth apparently saying, oh, there's exculpatory evidence that I found. Okay, number one, you're part of the case. You're part of the defense team. You're under a gag order, mister. So, ask the F you. Oh, sorry. Did that make sense? That was my dyslexic way of saying, you know, shut the front door. Which he should. He's under a gag order. He definitely falls under the gag order. And this is why. So now everybody, it intimidates the witness. Well, it has been worked out, we found. And we found out this, like she wanted to be subpoena. Well, a subpoena is a filing. So that was part of the public knowledge of the case. And then we found out through another filing that the 2 sides have agreed that since she is living in Nevada now, they will go to Nevada and interview her, which means it's not like, I don't think it's going to be like a regular deposition where there's like a court reporter, she's put under oath, they tape her. She apparently has horrible PTSD. Another reason why not to say her name. We don't want to add to that. So, yeah, that is what is going on. And what do I think is happening? Why do I think he thinks he has exculpatory evidence? I'd say 89%, I am sure, it is because he is going to have her say, don't you hear noises all the time? Couldn't it have been anybody? How many people are in your house all the time? Maybe he found out there was a thing. Maybe when she found out, she immediately said, it's so-and-so's boyfriend, or I know it's this guy, or I think, like, she may have made some exclamation emotionally and blamed somebody, and he's going to say, well, that's not Bryan. I think he's definitely going to try. I think it's about making the witnesses look like their doors were wide open. They never had closed doors. It really could be anybody. I don't think it's really exculpatory because we already know this. And I don't think it's new information unless it is something that she said. Maybe she was thinking through at first before they had a suspect. Who could this be? And they were coming up with people. That might be it. But again, is that really new information? I think that's what it is. My dog's going a little crazy. So anyways, that is, there is one final thing. They're fighting, not fighting, but I don't even know what side it is, but somebody wants Bryan's records from, and probably the prosecution, from the school, and he worked for Pleasantville Schools, if you remember. He went there, and then he worked there as a security guard, and there was a story about how he helped save some woman's life. So, I don't know which side wants his records from his job and stuff there, but apparently the school district was like, well, we have a policy, we have to talk to the person first. I'm like, oh, you're going to ask Bryan if his records can be made available? And lawyers and Ellie people have said, look, that could be subpoenaed easily. So they are definitely going to get that information. If you're wondering who I depend on for this case and this information, it was Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, and I also was listening to Duty Run, and also STS, Surviving the Survivor, had on some lawyers.